Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Sofia Isaacson. I'm head of Solution Line Communication Services, and I'm here today together with Marty Pimbo from RingCentral. Welcome, Marty.
Thank you very much. I'm Marty Piombo. I've been with RingCentral for 8 years. I run our business development and specifically our telco partnerships, as well as strategic integrations with companies like Google, Salesforce, Okta, and Box. Very happy to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. So do you want to say a few, something brief about RingCentral?
Yes, I think for us today is an opportunity for us to spend time with all of you. It's more of an introduction. We are a North American company, so when we travel throughout Europe, we like to take a humble approach to who we are and how far we've come in the last 10 years or so as a company, but also to introduce the brand, introduce the service offering, explain a little bit about what we do and how we do it, and specifically how we partner with carriers and why it's important to understand what we're also doing in conjunction with Ericsson and why we think that's relevant not only to all of you, but to your customers ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Good. So then I'll just tell you a little bit about the background of the VoLTE for UC solution that we've created and now pre-integrated and verified together with RingCentral. And then we'll take it from there, right? Yeah? So when talking to you, our customers, about the communication services evolution in the enterprise space, there are a few concerns that you've been raising, and we're happy now that we can address some of these with the VoLTE for Unified Communication solution. So some of these are then the increasing mobility, world going mobile. Also, of course, the workforce is going mobile, and the employees of an enterprise wants to work anywhere on any device, naturally. Also, the VoLTE subscriptions are picking up, and as consumers are starting to use VoLTE, they're starting to see some benefits with VoLTE, superior voice quality, for example, and they want to make use of that also when they are employees and having an enterprise service offering them. And in addition to this, we can see that there are service evolutions happening on top of VoLTE, different in different countries, but people are hearing about multi-X type of services, for example, like multi-device and multi-persona, which also employees of enterprises want to make use of. And some of these actually makes more sense and even brings higher value sometimes in the enterprise context. So also that would want to be then integrated into the offerings that you bring to the enterprises. We also hear that enterprises today want to have less on-prem and are interested in buying more as a service from a cloud. We hear that they want it to be easy to use, not large integration projects. It should be very fast to integrate, etc. And of course, you as service providers want to make sure that you can reuse the network assets you have to differentiate towards pure OTT services. So with this VoLTE for Unified Communication solution, we then do not only want to address the concerns of bringing the VoLTE benefits into the enterprise segment, but also, of course, want to make sure that you can utilize your network assets and do it in the best way and the easiest way. And here's why we have this EN&I solution set up, which enables you to do this in a way that is secure with high quality and also an efficient lifecycle management. So we've done it in a setup that decouples the operator's IMS network from, for example, a cloud-based UC system, so that, for example, RingCentral can do fast and easy innovation of, well, for example, collaboration services in the cloud and easily introduce it to the market without impacting the pre-integrated solution setup that we have. And this, of course, then means that you as service providers can provide and the enterprises can take part of new innovative services quickly as they are developed. And we're also very happy that RingCentral sees the value of this solution and that we have done joint efforts in showing the ease of use and efficiency of the solution and done a very fast integration and verification effort together so that we here today don't only talk about it, but we can actually demonstrate it and have it available for you as our customers with very short delivery time. So do you want to add some values that you see from your perspective to this?
Well, we've clearly been debating internally for the last probably 2 years or so what direction the company was going to take in terms of both IMS as an experience for customers, which flavor, and ultimately who we would partner with to deliver the features and functionality that our customers are asking for. So we're just very excited because we know there's an opportunity, and our leadership has committed to providing this and decidedly move forward with Ericsson, a formidable brand, but also a formidable technology provider, and one that we think already our carriers have expressed great interest in the fact of their historical background in working with Ericsson and their interest in deploying this new technology into their network. So for us, it makes perfect sense, and actually there's a great intersection of what we're doing as a company, what Ericsson is doing, and what we hear that our carriers are telling us. So we're very excited.
So what do you think the audience should take with them from this event here today?
Well, hopefully they already know quite a bit about Ericsson, not as much about RingCentral. So this gives us a good platform and an opportunity to introduce our company, to understand what we're doing together as partners in this space. And hopefully that leads to some dialogue and some open conversation around how we can better help move your business forward in the UCaaS space as being a pure cloud provider. We've seen that transformation is now well on its way, and it's going to be more aggressive in some parts of Europe than in others, but we think that working together with Ericsson, we might have an even better story to tell you and to continue the dialogue beyond today's event.
And then maybe to emphasize even more, I think we should make sure to act now, because the transition or the transformation you talked about is happening now. So now is a great opportunity to catch this market window that's there to win the market. So act now.
That is correct.
With that, maybe we should get started, and I'll hand over to you, right?
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you, Sophia. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So today, we do not want to have a session with all of you where we're just going to drag through a lot of heavy, dense PowerPoint presentation. That's not really what we had in mind. What we really wanted to do was encourage an open and interactive session, so please feel free to stop me at any point in time, and we'll certainly make an opportunity to have questions at the end. But we really wanted to break this down into 3 or 4 different components to be able to get across what we wanted to explain in terms of what the company is, talk a little bit about our integrations, and then also have an opportunity to demo after we're finished here the technology that we've been working with together with Ericsson. We also have Harvey Needham from British Telecom joining us today for a fireside chat, which we think is going to resonate well with the audience. We've had these sessions before. In the fall here in Europe, we had an event similar to this in Paris and another one in Brussels. So it's very helpful to have another carrier in the audience here that can interact with all of you and can answer questions through the lens of a carrier or a service provider, and gives validation and credibility to what we've been doing, but overall can answer questions around this space, not just as it pertains to RingCentral. Ericsson will also be up together with RingCentral to talk about the efforts that we've been undergoing. And then we'll just wrap up with a very quick 10 minutes or so on just some of the details of how we actually partner with carriers and go to market. Then following that, we'll have a reception where we'll have some cocktails and appetizers and be able to mingle with the audience and talk to all of you individually and answer any other further questions you might have. We'll be doing some demos there, and we'll also have a couple of videos to kick off the sessions here. So let me move directly into those now. I think we've come through the welcome address, and we're through this piece now, and I think if I click here...
We say we live in a connected world, but what does that truly mean? A plug, a dial tone, a signal? But physical connections are just the beginning. The secret to digital business is creating experiences that bring people together. It's about fueling relationships that drive customer engagement and business value. And where does that happen? This is where. This is where the cloud empowers today's digital workforce to communicate and collaborate naturally, across any device, any distance, and any app. This is where employees, partners, and customers are always at the center. And it's where businesses around the world connect on their terms. This is where Parvana transforms car sales with any device, anywhere, anytime customer service, enabling best-in-class consumer experiences. It's where Box, the leading enterprise content management platform, uses cloud communications to unify its global workforce to better serve 41 million users. Where John Varvatos keeps its global sales and design teams on the same page as they innovate the future of fashion. And where World Vision connects more people around the globe to fight poverty and injustice. This is where minds connect in a deeper, more meaningful way. This is where human relationships inspire limitless potential. This is the power of connection. And this is where you make it all happen.
So we begin really with the story because at the end of the day, we could sit up here and present you with a number of slides and talk to you about, how the company has performed, how long we've been traded on the New York Stock Exchange. But what I think is a little more pertinent is, when we look at communications as a company, we understand that, this is no longer the environment that we have come to know from 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago, where people were relying on landlines, and the behavior around how you took messages, how you interacted with your customers, and how you interacted with your employees was entirely different. The world has changed, and the way that people need to communicate and the way they need to work together has changed, where people have to be able to work both remotely, whether that's in the field, from a home office, satellite office, and they need to be able to do that on any device, anywhere, and any modality. So the endpoints need to be flexible, and the platform to support this type of interaction, and it's not just limited to voice, but it needs to take into account the way that customers want to interact and communicate. And for those of you that have kids, and specifically teenagers, you'll know that, the way that these people communicate, and that will be the new workforce before we know it, is not one that uses traditional methods to communicate. Certainly voice is not the way that, for example, kids like to communicate today. And those kids will be the workforce of the future, and that will be here soon enough. So we took an approach years ago, and the approach was that we needed to think about where we've come from. And when you think about the consumer market, let's go back to, well before smartphones were introduced, and we looked at the carrier environment and how we worked within the constraints of a carrier environment, where the technology resided, and how much of that work was being done, and the level and pace of innovation was fairly simplified in the sense that we were talking about voice services, and most of that innovation was done at the carrier level. So pretty straightforward, with not a very hard and fast-paced innovation at that time. If you fast forward, and this is post-smart devices, and you see the change from voice to data services, and you see the introduction of other services now being provided by third parties, whether that's SMS, video, and these are all done outside of the carrier environment. And most of that being done at a much faster pace with smaller companies dedicated to individual pieces of technology. And this is the beginning of the change that we capitalized on years ago when we decided to pursue a communications platform that was going to make it easier for customers to interact, easier for companies and customers to deploy, and to ultimately change the way that customers communicate both internally within their own companies, but also externally with others. And a good example of that, which I think everybody here is perfectly familiar with, is the disruptive nature that some of these third-party platforms can have, even in our own ecosystems as we know it. And I've spent the last 20 years working together with telcos in one way, shape, or form or another in introducing and integrating technology. But some things, happen so fast that none of us could really anticipate how disruptive they could be. And I think WhatsApp is a very good example of that, and how it's changed dramatically, just something that we took for granted back in the beginning when one was looking at SMS. And if you take another step further and you think about pre-smartphone and you think about, around the dot-com area and you start thinking about PBX and how we deployed on-premise systems really outside of the carrier environment with behind the firewall voice services still being developed and deployed by the carriers with a pace of innovation that was probably not as fast as some of these outside developers were producing. You fast forward another 10 years, and really some of the changes that you saw there were not necessarily revolutionary, but it was taking some of those components, some of that infrastructure that was outside of the carrier environment, and then introducing that back into the network, leveraging data services, and introducing an environment where the carrier had more control ultimately of these voice services. And then as our leadership thought about, the changes that they were going to anticipate in this marketplace, they really suddenly found themselves in a completely different environment, which now had new endpoints, whether that's IP phones, smartphones, tablets. And what changed here is the advent of these third parties that are now developing hordes and hordes of applications and services, and yet we did not see immediately the linkage between the developers of this technology and the carriers themselves. So there was still these isolated apps, services that are not necessarily integrated into the infrastructure and the network that the carriers are doing, but nevertheless at a very, very rapid pace, churning out all these applications that now customers could consume off marketplaces and so forth. And it's here that we saw an opportunity to introduce services independently as a third-party provider, but create an environment where we could actually leverage this together with carriers and give them an opportunity to use those services. And when we looked at the marketplace at that point in time, and even today, we realized that the marketplace is massive. So when we're in Europe, we talk about a total addressable market of 25 billion euros. It's a massive, massive opportunity. We're just beginning to scratch the surface. And yes, we are an American company, but we believe that the evolution to cloud is inevitable and invariably will progress throughout Europe at a pace that may be different in some countries than others. But even as you look at CRM and other cloud applications that are now the de facto standard, it's just taken a little bit longer with voice. But we know that that's coming. It's not a question of when and if cloud is going to be here. It's just a matter of when and how fast our service provider partners and the enterprise want to adopt cloud voice services as a core part of their business. So we just see, the growth that the company has had is thanks to this total addressable market that's massive. We're in the very early stages of transition, as I was just mentioning. So this is very early stages for us as a company. We're doing very well in terms of our own growth, certainly in the markets where we've introduced the service. But we know that together with our partners, this opportunity is truly, truly massive, not only just in Europe, but globally speaking. So today, the company is deployed its services in over 87 different countries where the service is now available. But again, capitalizing mostly on North American distribution to date. And again, what has made us important and relevant as a service is this ability to be able to allow customers the opportunity to be anywhere, anytime, on any device. And this is a departure from how we've seen typical PBX systems work in the past. You can now have an office in Stockholm and have an office in London or in New York City and be able to seamlessly allow for customers to interact and to be able to do extension-to-extension dialing all under one mother account with easy billing, easy integration, and easy configuration of that service. And a little bit of time here just on the platform. Again, today's session is not intended to do a 90-minute presentation on every single piece and component of both our infrastructure and the product service itself, but I think it would be helpful to at least walk you through a little about our platform and where we started and what has differentiated us on the top end in the last 18 to 24 months. Fundamentally, we began with PBX core functionality, eFax, audio conferencing, course voice and all the associated voice PBX features that one would come, auto receptionist, voicemail, and so forth. Over time, we began adding services like business SMS. We acquired a company that now gives us Slack capability called Glip. That's our team collaboration tool. We have contact center integrated solution that we now sell combined with our product, giving us the opportunity to solve for enterprise needs where customers have PBX requirements, but also happen to have, whether it's 30, 40, or 50 users that are in a contact center environment. And we obviously have video meetings and the ability to be able to share documents in that environment as well. We have analytics tools that are available now both to our partners and to the end consumer, which is above and beyond what we've seen competitively in the marketplace today, which is a big differentiator, and also an open platform. And by open platform, it means that both customers can develop towards our open APIs and SDKs, but also means that third parties and strategic partnerships that we have with folks like Google, Box, Okta, Salesforce, Amazon, we can work together to develop integrations that are important to our customers. Because we know that at the end of the day, customers are not going to necessarily be using our platform 24 hours a day as much as we would like them to. We know that they're going to be customers that are going to be in a Salesforce environment all day, for example, or they may be working in G Suite. And we have to make it easy for them to be able to do the things that they want to do off of those platforms, whether it's click to call or initiate a conference with their customers or with their internal employees. So we spend a lot of time leveraging that, and the open platform is a very key part of the company's strategy moving forward. And then global expansion. For us, the ability to do some of the things I mentioned earlier, which is a seamless experience for customers regardless of which part of the world they're in, is an important part of where we're going next, and also a differentiator which, you know, certainly when we look at some of our key competitors, is not something that they can do today. So, you know, part of our success is reflected in some of the key industry analyst reports, but also some of the people that we feel are the most important experts in the field, and we look forward every year to Gartner's release of the Magic Quadrant. For the fourth year in a row, we continue to be a leader in that, but we also continue to be farthest to the right and farthest up in the upper right-hand quadrant, which shows that the company has a long history of not only being an innovative company, but being able to execute operationally against the plans that we've had for the development of our platform. We follow this very, very closely, and we put a lot of effort to maintain and to continue that up and to the right movement on the Gartner Magic Quadrant. It's just one of the validations, but it's one that's important to us as a company, and this was just recently released in the fall, so it's 4 years running now that RingCentral has been a leader in the quadrant, and again, farthest and up to the right. And we're also putting more distance between our competitors in that shift that we're making every year. I'll spend a little minute on this as well because, I don't want to bore you with statistics about how the company's performed and how fast we're growing. But in fact, not only are we outperforming when we're evaluated by folks like Gartner, but if you look at us as a market share relative to our competition, and when we think about the carrier space, we can't help but mention BroadSoft because we know that probably almost every single carrier that's in this room is doing business with BroadSoft on one level or another. When we think about that competition and we look at it from pure cloud, which is where RingCentral has come from, which is different because our DNA is 100% born in the cloud, and that's all we've done. We look at some of our competition, which are pivoting away from their traditional technology and trying to become a cloud player. Our cloud growth continues to accelerate very quickly. We have the largest market share today as a pure cloud player, whereas most of our competition is either flat or declining when you look at that as market share, whether it's revenue or whether it's user base. Why are we where we are today? What are the biggest drivers for putting us in the position that we have been sustaining for the last 5 years since the company went public? Primarily, it's been because, again, not only are we born in the cloud, but we were also born mobile first. And by that, we mean that our founders looked at this opportunity and said that unless companies and customers could find the service online, order it off a smartphone, manage it, configure it, and have it activated within minutes, then it was probably too difficult. It was probably too challenging, and we shouldn't do it. So all of our interfaces and all of the customer experience was born from a mobile-first framework. And then we've taken that experience and made it ubiquitous across tablets, portals, the web, and a desktop experience. So it needed to be easy. It needed to be easy to buy, purchase, manage, configure, and use. And that's been very pivotal for the company. And we need to be best in class in terms of feature sets. You'll find that we're not going to be continually talking about feature sets because, frankly, at the end of the day, many of these things become commoditized. But it's how can we deploy the service, whether it's us directly or working with a carrier, to make sure that at the end of the day, your customers have that same ability to easily download, activate, provision, and be using that system within minutes. And I think there's nothing more powerful than when we do demos of the service is when we show that actual flow in a conference room to a service provider, that we can actually go in, enter very basic information, activate a phone number, have voicemail working, and making phones ring while we're actually presenting that in a live environment. And we need to do that with best-in-class team messaging, video conferencing, and the rest of the features need to be execution. And when I talk about the Gartner slide and being highest up and to the right, that's also being innovative, but it's the ability to execute and to do that flawlessly. Again, we've talked about open platform. That app gallery has grown. We have over 1,500 apps today. We have over 15,000 developers that are actively working on that platform and going through our certification program and becoming active users and developers, whether it's for themselves or as third parties for other people to benefit from those integrations. And again, on the global side, we continue to increase our footprint. It's up to now over the 87 that I mentioned, to over 100 countries with 17 different data centers throughout the globe. We like to include a slide here because I think, there are brands here that resonate in Europe. Box, for example, was a 7-country deployment for us, so it wasn't just in the United States. It was an international deployment in every office that company has. So we have been their source for communications platform. And there are other very well-known brands on here like Hyatt, Okta, Ladbrokes that are European-based that give you a sense of where we've been. And we'll have a short video that I think gives you a sense of what the platform offers, and it's always best to hear it directly from a customer's perspective and why it's relevant to them. And that goes beyond just voice. We also recognize, and I think most of you here will agree, that on-premise business as a whole from an industry is on the decline. Cloud is growing, and it's growing at roughly 12%, and we are growing in excess of 30%. The company has been growing at between 34 and 37% year over year for the last 5 years. The only slide that we'll use here to talk about metrics and just how the company has performed, because again, this really isn't an investor or analyst meeting here that I'm talking about the company's performance. But the reason why we do show this slide is because as a company, the revenues may not be anywhere near what a company like Ericsson is, but it's the rapid pace of growth that we've been able to maintain that I think is symbolic of what we continue to expect from the cloud and that opportunity. And also as a company, the fastest growing parts of our business are on the enterprise side. So on the enterprise side of our business, which we've dedicated a lot of resources and headcount over the course of the last 18 to 24 months, is growing at 100% year over year. Our mid-market is growing at approximately 80% year over year. So we're getting bigger customers, we're adding features and functionality like global, like our open platform that is resonating with bigger and bigger customers, which is what Wall Street wants to hear and which is fueling the growth of the company. So that's really why I wanted to share this one slide with you. So I think right now, I think if we click again, you'll see a quick video that gives you an example of what a customer of ours calls structural, which gives you a little bit of a direct insight into how you can leverage different parts of our service.
At Structural Group, we're a highly collaborative organization. We do engineering, we do product manufacturing, and we're also a self-performing contractor. And so for us, it's all about the highly collaborative environment. Our goal has been to put in a unified platform that allows us to have anyone in the company connect with anyone else in the company with whatever medium they're comfortable with. We've put in a system now that over the last year has been able to achieve the vision that we wanted, which was people in the center, and then their ability to communicate with anyone else in the organization, whether that's a phone call, a video conference, an audio conference, a document share, a GLIP team, it doesn't matter.
Construction is all about communication. We've got to take a lot of plans and details, and we've got to get that information to our crews so that they can go and deliver our project. Before GLIP, it was all about that long sequence of communication. We'd get on a job site, it's inevitable they're going to find something that's different than what we expected. And with GLIP, the technician can snap a photo and send it to me instantly. They can open up a video chat and we can actually talk about what the problem is. And so we go from 2 days and some long hours to fix a problem to maybe a couple minutes to solve a challenge and get those guys right back to work and moving on.
One of the advantages we have now as administrators is the administrative console that we get with RingCentral, which allows us to handle 90% of the issues that may come across our desk, whereas before we would have to call in and it could take a few days to get a customer's issue resolved.
For us, it's really how do you put people in the center of it and allow those people to communicate any way that it is that they want to communicate and have a system that facilitates the ability to do it.
And Harvey doesn't work with RingCentral only, and British Telecom has a host of different solutions that are offered in the space. So with that in mind, I think it was back in September that Andy Summerfield had announced that we were going to be focused on selling RingCentral-based cloud solution into the corporate segment. And as part of that, the rapidly changing landscape of communications in Andy's space indicated that it could not be sustained by just legacy solutions alone. Can you expand on that a little bit and share with us what some of the challenges were around legacy solutions and the need to move beyond?
So I guess when we think about legacy solutions, we're talking about the on-prem switch, we're talking about the PSTN, the ISDN. Those technologies are in a declining cycle. We know that we won't be able to keep ISDN and PSTN running forever, and that cloud services are the way to replace them over time. So that there's a sort of technical reason why the legacy equipment and the legacy approaches are not necessarily right. But I think more when you look at what the customers are needing to do and what the outcomes they're looking for is these solutions have limitations. They can be inflexible. They can be costly. They can require skills that the organizations don't necessarily have or don't want to invest in. So there's many reasons why we found with the more traditional on-prem approaches, customers were starting to demand something different, and especially in Andy's area. So Andy's the corporate managing director and looks at anything from 100 to sort of 1,000 to 2,000 seat businesses. There is a massive demand for mobile in that sector. And so being able to bring the business communications capabilities, the services that customers require, together with the mobile and together with a more flexible service was really what customers were asking for and demanding, and what the competition are delivering. So I think there's a mix of different things in there that really steer customers away from continuing with the on-premise traditional route. But for BT as a service provider, there is a big base of customers that we have who have this equipment and have these relationships. So it's about us helping them on that journey. And I think that's the other challenge that the the legacy brings is customers, in some ways, fear a little bit the journey to get to the cloud because it's disruptive, it could be costly, it could lead to outages and downtime, and it's the unknown. And so that's, I guess, the other challenge that we had with these legacy services. How do we help customers move in the direction of the future portfolios and the future cloud services?
So I think you've taken a little bit of the wind out of my next question, which was, I think you've kind of answered it, which is, as we look at the ever-changing landscape, which I've talked a little bit about in the presentation, which is the changing behaviors of what we now consider to be an increasingly mobile workforce, and that's played into part of your answer. But as you look at enterprises today and their movement towards cloud, and certainly mobility being part of that, what are some of the other biggest drivers that you see in the enterprises as they consider or as they are now moving to the cloud?
So I brought some stats along. I saw a presentation from a guy called Jason Dorsey a few weeks back. And just to address that mobile question, there's a couple of key things he said. That 55% of Gen Z, so the people born in the 90s, 21, 22-year-olds, the people that are the emerging workforce, 55% of them use their smartphone more than 5 hours a day. 26% of them use it more than 10 hours a day. Yeah, this is for me an uncomfortable environment to be in. 31% of this generation would be uncomfortable without their mobile phone for more than 30 minutes. So if they're separated from that phone because they've got to do the shopping, unless it's in their pocket, they're worried. 65% of them use their smartphone after midnight, some nights of the week. 29% of them use it after midnight every night of the week. So what that tells me is mobile phones are quite important to this emerging market. Yeah, these guys and girls that are joining the workforce are looking for something that is relevant to the way they behave, the way they live, the way they interact. The mobile phone, the smartphone, the applications on those smartphones is how they expect to operate. They're not looking for the more traditional services. So if you're going to deliver communications, UC, collaboration, however we term it, to these people, you've got to put it in the frame that's relevant to them and the frame that they expect, because these guys, unlike me, have not lived in a world without the mobile phone. So this for them, having an integrated solution in their working environment, whether it be communications or productivity or anything, having that integrated with the way they expect to operate and the device they expect to operate, and having the flexibility that gives is so important. And if you don't do that, then you're just not going to be even considered. So yes, there are still Gen Xers like me and millennials who maybe are happy to accept the desk phone on there and happy to have to log into a PC to do something. But I think gradually we're going to see that mobile phones are the way people expect to do something. And then having the flexibility of choice of how you communicate with people and how you communicate with different people is going to become then another important factor. When I communicate with some people in the office, I might use Microsoft Teams, I might use WebEx Teams, I might use Glip, I might use email, I might use SMS, I might even pick up the phone sometimes. That choice is not something you can tell customers. That choice is what they will decide to do. So having services that are born out of the cloud that evolve and stay up to date and continually have all these different methods of communicating and methods of operating is critical to remain relevant. If you don't do that, you're going to not even be considered. You're just not in the mix, basically.
Thank you. From a customer perspective, because you've also dealt with a lot of your end customers on this, how important is it as customers are thinking about moving to the cloud, this, what we call, and everything from value chain to the value prop of actual start of activation to having the system up and running? How much does that play, or how much does that influence customers today when they're thinking about either the challenge of or the opportunity of moving and migrating to a pure cloud play?
So different customers obviously have different perspectives on this, but one of the things, the challenges that BT have constantly with big deployments, multi-instance deployments, is it takes a long time. And if we've got customers that are having to wait 6 months, 9 months for a deployment to go through, they're going to get frustrated. They're going to get question what have they brought, because they're not seeing it. And in this world of instant activation, I think that it's really critical to understand that, to minimize that. It's sometimes okay to take time, because if you're deploying a multi-site migration to customers, you do it at the pace they want to do it. But that's the key, is matching the expectation of pace with the delivery, and not slowing customers down or even speeding them up. When it comes to a service, though, that's up and running, I would say that increasingly the last thing you want to do is have to pick up the phone to call a desk to say, can I order another line? Okay, my phone will turn up in a week, and have to think that far ahead. You want to be able to switch that service on, give the customers, the users, the service to use, switch it off again when you're done. You want the phones to be turning up, if they want phones, quickly. Within 1 to 2 working days is where we are at the moment, maybe quicker with Amazon and drones and all this other good stuff. But I think it's really making sure that the customer can have stuff in the pace and in the way, the time frame that they expect to have it, rather than just saying, well, you've ordered this, you're going to have to wait a long time. We all have the opportunity to use Amazon Prime, where we can get something next day. Just because that's your personal life, you take that expectation into your business life. And so I think there's this sort of, it's really important to understand what the speed the customer needs is, and be able to deliver on it.
Right. And a little more pertinent to the conversation today, and with Ericsson here today, and many of the folks that are in this room, as BT Mobile and fixed wireline convergence is underway, how does IMS play into that, or how does IMS help in that thinking?
Well, has my mic gone off? No. So, I mean, IMS is a way of bringing together those two, I guess, siloed, in the old sense, technologies. So, the fixed line or the cloud services have progressed in one way, and we still have customers who are buying mobiles as a separate service. What IMS is doing is enabling those mobiles to effectively become part of that one business group. You showed on one of your slides earlier, Marty, how the brain is in the cloud. That's your business group. And it doesn't matter where your users are, it doesn't matter what they're using, it doesn't matter whether they're on the road, whether they're in the office. Their communication service is centralized, and the management of that is centralized. IMS enables that to really truly happen. I think coupled with the 5G, we were talking earlier about bringing together the 5G, IoT, and VoLTE and other things like that, you start to then build a complete story, which is you can choose to consume your service where you want, how you want, when you want, and it fits with your business and your operations and the way you want to work, rather than the more traditional approach, which is, we've built this thing, you need to change how your business is structured to fit with this thing. It's flipping around, and IMS, I think, is a key component that enables us to bring together that rich cloud, I don't want to call it cloud PBX, but it is, that rich cloud collaboration UC service with the flexibility and the abilities you get with mobile, 4G, 5G, IoT, VoLTE, all these great things that are there today, and whatever's coming beyond. So it is the linchpin. Otherwise, you're in an over-the-top world, which for some people is fine, but for others, you lose out on capability, quality of service, and stuff like that.
So I guess as a follow-on question, maybe a little more specifically, how important do you think it will be to use voice quality as a differentiator for a lot of the more enterprise customers, for example?
I think voice quality, to some extent, the coverage and the ability to have consistent voice is, I mean, especially in the UK, one of the things that I think we need to, IMS will give us if you try and make a call on a train in the UK over Wi-Fi, it can be a bit hit and miss. The quality of the Wi-Fi, the congestion on the network. The mobile network is designed. It's designed in that way. It's designed to hand off. So I think it's bringing together quality and consistency of service, so that when you make a call, that important business call, you know it's going to work. You're not having to wait till you get somewhere and stand still and hope that no radio signals get blocked in any way. So I think that, for me, is quality is important. richness, HD voice, all of those great things. When you experience it, compare it to traditional voice, it is truly better. But then having that consistency and coverage is really important.
Right. And when you think about customers and you think about the challenge of moving them into advanced communication systems, what are the typical, or what is the single biggest challenge that you think BT faces, or in moving these customers or getting them to contemplate?
So I think we have a big base of customers who've not moved for a long time or have built up and evolved over time. There's a massive fear of the unknown, and there's also helping customers understand what they could be doing. So rather than saying, you've got this old PBX today, let's give you a newer version, we should be saying, what is your business trying to do? What are the outcomes you're trying to look for? How can we make your business better, and better in an operational, in a financial, in all senses, by giving you a better communication, so it's giving you a better way for you to collaborate with your customers and your staff and the people that are important to you. And I think that's the challenge for us, is changing the conversation from being about point sales and about upgrades to being about taking customers on a journey. We're taking them on this journey from something they've got today to something new, and we need to hold their hand and give them the confidence that this is the right journey, this is going to give them benefit and help them move across. And I think that for us is a mindset change. It's a challenge to the sales guys to think differently about how they approach stuff. But by thinking about the journey, you're partnering with that customer and you're building a relationship with them rather than selling them a point product.
As part of that, when you're talking to customers, what have you heard from them with regards to collaboration? And we have a collaboration tool that's part of our portfolio, but setting that aside for a moment, just generally speaking, collaboration is a fairly new thing, let's say, but how much of that forms part of what you just described?
So I don't think we do enough with collaboration in terms of understanding the story and explaining the story. If you think about what is collaboration, we all do it every day. When we're WhatsApping, when we're Facebooking, when we're in our personal lives, we are collaborating and we're choosing different ways to collaborate with different people. We have a group here, we have a person there, we have global things, we have private things. And so we are collaborating today. In our business world, we've got collaboration tools which further enhance that with Microsoft Teams, WebEx Teams, Glip, all these other tools. But I think the challenge is trying to help customers understand how that's going to make their business better, how that is going to improve the operations in their business. And there's some good examples, and I know I used Curtis's example before of using a collaboration tool to help architects talk to builders when they're up the top of a tower, changing things. And you're using the tool to set up a little space, a team, for the purposes of a short conversation, and then you dispel it. But I think when we sell collaboration, that's the challenge that we've got, is to help our sales guys and our specialists understand how to show a customer that this can make their life better. It's about contextualizing it. Everyone uses collaboration. I think it's a bit of a buzzword at the moment. We need to demonstrate how we can contextualize it and sell it better, because actually once you start using it, it's really good and it really helps, but you've got to get it across the line. You've got to help customers really understand that benefit. And so adoption is, in my mind, the key to this, is bringing adoption services. So you don't just sell the thing, you then go and sit and show the customer how to structure it, how to deliver it, how to train it, how to use it, and then go in and repeat that and go back and back to make sure that they're getting the most out of the services they paid for.
So hopefully this has been helpful to folks in the crowd. Maybe as a finishing question, what would be your single most important piece of advice to customers that are contemplating transitioning off their communications platform to cloud?
I think it's think about the outcome you want, think about where your business is today and where you want your business to be in the future, and what do you need to achieve that. Don't think about, I've got this feature or that feature. Product managers love features. We all like a good list of features. It's not relevant. It's about, how can I make my business better and what do I need to do that? And I think if the customer can start to think about the outcome, then you can start to structure how you get there and what's the right fit and what's the right mix of services that we can provide and solutions that we can provide, and bring together various components. But I think unless you understand where you want to get to, you're going to end up iterating and just buying the same thing you had before, and that's not going to transform your business.
Perfect. Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Harvey. As
No worries.
always, pleasure. Thank you. Okay, so now the more relevant piece, I think we're going to bring down some of our individuals from both Ericsson and from RingCentral. We have Vikas ready to join us, and Jan, I'll let you two take it away.
Thank you, Marty.
Okay.
Hey, Jan. Hey, Vikas. So I am Vikas Singhal, working as a strategic product manager for communication services, enterprise communication. And I will take you through this. Sorry. Yeah. So we discuss about the mobile first, how mobile is becoming important. But considering from the end user point of view, like what do they need in mobility? Is it easy to use? What's about ease of use? Is it, do they have to download something or do they have to do some configuration? But in the easiness, they are looking, can they use their native dialer or native phone to make the business calls? Is this doing the native dialer, can they make it more like using the hunt group feature or using the shortcode dialing, using their enterprise services that's connected to the UC system? So it's more like ease of use. And as compared to having two different apps, or you download like an app for use your UCAS or UC system, and then whenever you're making call, you have to use this app, make a call, but then you get some call on your main number. So what take the priority? So it's like ease of use without using your native phone, and then call quality of service. So it's like you have the voice over LTE or VoLTE call quality for your business communication. It's basically native call quality, voice quality versus the OTT voice. So like if you're using an OTT app, it's going through the broadband or open internet without any quality of service. So is it providing call quality? So the business users are looking ease of use, call quality, and from the business side, it's more like control and compliance for their mobile and fixed devices. And that too integrated with the collaboration and business applications. Correct, Jan? Yep, fully agree. So what we have done with the RingCentral is, we say, RingCentral, you core expertise or in the UC area. And from Ericsson side, we bring the network of VoLTE expertise. And we make it easy for RingCentral to connect to our IMS system, or VoLTE system. So where we bring all the best qualities from the VoLTE side, and then from the RingCentral, they bring the unified communication features. So it's tightly integrated with the IMS network, but still we are using network-to-network interface, so each one can have their own life cycle, basically. So we are kind of decoupling the UC system with the IMS interface, but still we are connecting through the network-to-network interface. So from the UC system side, they don't have to worry about the speed of innovation, how it's impacting the network or not, but they have to follow this network-to-network integration specs. And as soon as they are doing all their innovation in this area, they are fine. And then from our side, we provide all the superior voice quality, all the upcoming features that are coming in IMS, like multi-device, multi-persona, and also ease of use of native dialer. So it's truly make mobile phone an integrated part of the end device for the UC solutions. Going further more details is in this, like operators or service provider already have their VoLTE system, and we provide our VoLTE for unified communication solution, and that's integrated with the RingCentral cloud. It's pre-integrated, pre-tested, And so what's the value it's bringing? It's allowing service provider to differentiate as compared to the pure OTT offering, because now it's integrated with your VoLTE. So all the voice quality will be there, all the VoLTE feature, all the network features will be there. So it's a service provider can bring their differentiators in market. And it's make it easy for RingCentral to get compliant or provide the benefit of VoLTE to their enterprise customers. It's the ENNI approach is more secure, especially when most of the UC systems are going towards cloud. Even if you see the old legacy system, they are trying or moving to the hybrid or some cloud, but since RingCentral is a pure cloud-based solution, so it's very easy, it's more secure for operators to take this cloud solution and integrate it and provide differentiation from the network to the enterprise customers. Any questions on this? Okay. So what value it bring? Like it's bring the use of native dialer for the business phone. It's bring voice and video quality to the end users. It provides enterprise features on your mobile phone, and it's not only voice over LTE, it's also voice over Wi-Fi. So wherever, if as a service provider you are providing the voice over Wi-Fi solution to your customers, so it's VoLTE or voice over Wi-Fi. So these enterprise users can use that service, and then the collaboration is coming from the RingCentral side. So this is the solution that we are providing, and we have integrated with the RingCentral cloud solution. And Jan will take through the more details of the RingCentral, what's their thinking about this solution. Yeah.
Yep, thank you, Vikas. So we're going to double click a little bit. We're not going to get into very, very detail, but just telling you a little bit about what we're doing on our side to make this work. So Marty talked about the value of cloud and how the world is transitioning towards cloud. I thought there were some interesting points here from the fire chat as well, hearing about the importance of guaranteed quality of voice, which you get from VoLTE, ubiquitous service that you get from good VoLTE coverage, and maybe also the ease of use of the native dialer that Vika spoke about. So we still have this fantastic RingCentral solution that has the UCaaS contact center. We also have now a customer engagement product. We also have a couple of representatives here who are going to demo that, if you're interested. We are still reaching out to enterprises, and we're now benefiting from being able to contact those smartphones and connect them into our RingCentral cloud. So what we've done basically is that since we now have this interface, we can define these devices as RingCentral endpoints, just like any other endpoint that we have. So we already have support for soft phones, we have a mobile app, you can connect desk phones, and now you can also add this VoLTE device or your smartphone. And it's a seamless experience. So you get the same features that you get in terms of call forwarding and call handling. You can manipulate your outgoing caller ID to create a multiple persona. And basically, we get all these benefits from a single network-to-network interface, and we're decoupling the development in the cloud from the development in the IMS network. So the way you can see this is that we're basically introducing 3 layers here. So you have your 3G, 4G, in the future 5G, but also wired technologies such as PSTN, VoIP, Wi-Fi. And they're all converging via the IMS network, and they can all be controlled from the IMS network. And then we get this network-to-network interface, and we can provide now the business logic from the cloud across any of these access types. And it's really working at an independent pace of innovation. We also get the benefits of being able to introduce these more differentiated services that we can realize in a cloud environment. We also can decouple the time to market. We don't need to have people with specific skills, etc., working in the IMS core to introduce new business services. Let's say you have a wireline group that only wants to introduce a hunt group or something like that. You can just use the network-to-network interface, route those calls to the cloud, and we can do that from RingCentral. the overall life cycle management cost becomes much lower as well, since we keep this in the separate maintenance, and it's just an additional endpoint to the cloud. So we think also, although this initial deployment is mainly about voice, we think there are certain capabilities IMS that could actually be well used to provide other cloud services, such as messaging. So Marty mentioned, for example, our tool GLIP, which is a collaboration tool, group messaging, etc. You may be considering using rich media, etc., possibly via RCS, or maybe you want to do it over the top. With this integration, there are options to deliver it either or. And of course, meetings, video conferencing, and screen sharing could also be done either over IMS or over the top. So I think we touched here on the key points. So should we just go through the benefits? So do you want to start, Vikas?
So it's, yes, what are the benefits for operators to go through it? So first of all, it's connecting VoLTE, providing VoLTE voice quality to your enterprise cloud service or UCaaS services. Second is increased revenue by selling fixed and mobile services. Earlier, what happened, like if there is a fixed operator or fixed service provider, they're providing the UC solution, or the fixed and mobile is separate or it's not bundled, so it's like selling more together. And it's faster time to market because we have already tested it. We have tested it we have a working demo, which we'll show after the event. So it's faster time to market to deploy. And since RingCentral solution is in cloud, so it's much easier to deploy. Do you want to comment something on the lifecycle management?
Yeah, since it's also going back to the point that we're decoupling it from IMS, because you're not stuck with software and hardware upgrades inside your IMS core, which can be fairly complex just for business purposes or business communication purposes. By putting them into the UC, you're making them independent of the work in your core switching departments or network groups.
And this will be also compatible with the future IMS services. So as the IMS are evolving, and we told about there are many new features that may be coming, like video or multi-device, all different features on IMS. So this will be available to this pre-integrated solution, and then it's compatible for the future IMS features. So that's the core benefits we see for the operators and from the joint solution.
Yeah. And as Vika said, we're doing some demo of this that we've already developed the interconnectivity, and we'd love for you to come and see it work.
But do you any questions so far or something?
Please.
You talked about this digital
Yeah.
Hello. You talked about this digital youth, or I don't remember what you call them, but and they came from this multi-channel messaging environment, and you have focusing here on the voice thing. So how do you see that? Isn't this the experience? How do we leverage on the messaging part together with voice? Because I think that will give the user experience that the digital youth is actually reaching for or reaching out for.
Yep.
Have you any comment on that?
I think that's a very good question. I think we can deliver from the cloud any of these services. So what we're saying here, there's certain services where we want to utilize the quality of service mechanisms that you have in IMS. And the first one that we thought of is voice, because it's still critical for many business communication purposes. So what we're saying is that maybe it's on a case-by-case basis, depending on different needs for different carriers, how you want to deliver it, how you want to package it, how you want to offer it in terms of billing. But basically, you can choose to say, I want to deliver everything over the top except voice. And then in the future, you say there's certain messaging components that I also want to go through IMS, or there's certain video conferencing or other features that I want to move in IMS. So I think it's on a case-by-case basis what makes more sense on each point in time.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Then we go to the next section, which is career forum.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
So, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jan Lemerle. I'm RVP of Carrier Business Development at RingCentral. And very happy to see you this afternoon and this morning for the people joining us from South America. Happy also to recognize a lot of faces today, but for those of you who don't know me, I've been working on my careers in telecom and helping a service provider to deploy voice over IP, cloud PBX, and UC solution. So I'm especially excited to present the RingCentral Carrier program because I think this program will help you to solve two of the main issues you face today. The first one being like the time to market to bring new exciting solutions to your customers. And the second one, and probably more importantly, a solution that will help you to grow your revenue. Everybody knows that the B2B market is very challenging for telecom operators, especially in this market. So our Carrier program has 4 main pillars. The first one is our commitment for a fast go-to-market. So we're talking in months, not in years, to bring a solution, to bring the full RingCentral user experience to your end users. The second pillar, and that's something that Arvid touched about, is it's not only having the solution available to your customers, but you need to be able to deploy it quickly, activate quickly your customers. Something that RingCentral we have mastered is what we call, the quote to cash. We have a huge experience, and you will be able to benefit from all the technology we have developed for that. The third pillar is our commitment to innovations. RingCentral spent over $100 million a year developing that product. And we also have a commitment to increase our R&D as we're increasing our revenue. And as you've seen that from the Marty slide, this growth is about 30% a year. So we want you to have all the time the best product available on the market. And finally, and very important, like the final pillar, which is unique to RingCentral, is our commitment to the carriers. We don't see the carriers as reseller, we see them as a partners. So there's a big difference. We'll invest a lot in this relationship. So what we do when we sign an agreement with the carriers, we recruit dedicated people that will help the carriers to sell more and better, to deploy it faster, and also to support the end users. So we try to work on a program which is both simple and flexible. Flexibility, because we want to adapt to your network, adapt to your requirement. And you all have different state of, IT capabilities in your SSBSS. Some of you have billing systems which you can, easily connect and get CDRs. Some of you need help there. So depending on your requirement, we will adapt to that. The whole idea is that RingCentral will focus on all the technical issues and the technical complexity to deploy these complex services. And you will be able to focus on your customers' relationships and growing the business. We have a model that you can launch, as I mentioned, in a matter of months. And over time, as the business grows, we can have a deeper integrations into your network. A concrete examples, as I say, we have the whole OSS BSS stack. So if you don't want or you don't have the possibility to reuse your OSS BSS system, to use our API to provision and activate users. So we could use what we have, something off the shelf. But over time, you could develop that in your own system and connecting your own provisioning system directly natively to the RingCentral platform. Okay, there is a couple. I mean, I wanted to spend a few minutes going through the difference between our model, our pure cloud models, and the traditional model of delivering UC for you as a carriers, typically, buying software and integrating in your network. There are some major differences between the two models. The first one is you don't have a lot of upfront CapEx when you go to the RingCentral model. So you don't have to make a bet that you select a solution, you spend a lot of money today to be able to bring the product on the market maybe in 2 or 3 years' time. So you don't have to make the bet that the money you spend right now will be relevant. The product you're going to launch will be relevant in 3 years' time. So it's a different models. You will be able to launch much quicker and start to get revenue much quicker as well. I mentioned the innovation or commitment to innovations. How does it translate in real life? Well, RingCentral, we have 4 to 5 major releases a year. That's release we bring new functionality that will, bring value to your customers. Whereas in a traditional model, typically, the vendors, they upgrade the platform once a year, or even in some times, it's once every 2 years. There are also two other aspects of the RingCentral model that I would like to discuss with you. First, the coverage. In the current model, when you typically deploy the platform in your network to serve one region. And this region is typically one country. But your customers, a lot of them, even they're big or small, they're a global company. They have small subsidiaries abroad, or they have a group of people living working in different countries. So by leveraging the RingCentral Global Office solution, where we can provide regulated voice in 40 countries, your customers on your network, they will be able also to have their colleagues in other countries. Let's say if you are in Sweden, but they have this company have a subsidiaries in Spain or in Brazil, they will be able, in a matter of a few clicks, to create and activate this full communication environment. And finally, another aspect of this model, and especially of our platform, which is key, and I want to mention it because when we do the customer survey, it comes very often as one of the reasons they selected RingCentral, is the openness of the platform. As Marty mentioned, we have an app gallery with over 1,500, and it's growing every day, applications. That is key. Customers know a company, they want to have access to API, they want to be able to integrate their telephony, their communications capability into their own IT environment. So, our strategy with the carriers. As I mentioned, we don't see the carriers as just reseller. We see partnerships. So our ambition is not to have 400 or 600 carriers using the RingCentral. That's not. We want to find some key partners in some regions, and we will invest and make them very successful. So currently we have 3 partners, BT, so RV have been mentioning like the relationship, but we also have AT&T in the US and TELUS. So again, for us, partnership is very important, reference are very important. People from AT&T and TELUS could not be here today, but we'll be very happy to put you in contact and discuss with them, what has been bringing to them RingCentral. So I actually have a couple of slides mentioning, how they have been seeing this relationship and what benefit they got from RingCentral and our partnership. For BT, so I will go very quickly because RV mentioned it, but they were like, it's mobility. Mobility was very important in selecting RingCentral. For AT&T, they had another issue, which is bring UC to the market. They had a simple cloud PBX solution, as many of you have, and they really had a requirement to the market and their customers to bring more advanced capability and UC capability, and that's the reason they partner with us. And the last one is I want to mention interesting is TELUS. TELUS has been looking for, they had this strategy to partner with, a pure cloud vendors, and they had a very long investigation. And one of the reasons they selected RingCentral is first, they look deeply at our architecture and how RingCentral was built, born in the cloud, which is not like an application server you put in a data center somewhere and then you call it like pure cloud. So they really go into details. And really what they are pushing from RingCentral on the market is really like or integration with a lot of third parties, or unique partnership with Google and Microsoft and Salesforce. So and I'd like to conclude on this slide and talk about the opportunity we have together. I think we really have a chance to disrupt, like this 25 billion euro market that Marty mentions. And the whole idea is to bring the leverage the RingCentral technology, number one in UCaaS solution, or rapid innovation cycles and quick go-to-market, leverage that with what you have as a carrier is your network, your brand, and your bundled services. And now we have these other dimensions, what Ericsson is bringing. Really, you get the best of both worlds. You get the cloud, the rapid pace of innovation, and you had the best of telecom on what you get from the AMS networks in terms of reliability, service continuity. So now for once, you will have the best user experience. We can develop new user experience and new services based on this technology. So that was a quick overview of the program. I'll be very happy to continue, the discussion with you. And so you can reach me directly, and for people which are looking that online, they can reach to their Ericsson salespeople, and we'll make sure that we continue the dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you again for joining us today. I think we're going to have an opportunity to chat further. Again, we're not new to Europe, but I think that we can all debate how quickly cloud is taking off, and specifically UCaaS. But we believe that the shift to cloud is here, and IP transformation and customers going through their digital transformation are a true testament to that movement. We believe that we can partner with you. We look forward to having these conversations. We believe that the partnership with Ericsson is testament to that shift as well. We think it's relevant. We think it's pertinent. And wanted to thank all of you for joining us here today. And I know that we're also broadcasting, so thank you for the people that are abroad that are participating and taking the time to spend with us today and listen to our story. I hope you have a better understanding of who we are as a company, and how excited we are to be able to partner with all of you here.
Thank you, Marty. My name is Nils Sjöblom, so I'm heading sales readiness and sales support for communication services here at Ericsson. So thank you for bringing these messages. I mean, thank you, Marty. Thank you, Harvey. Thank you, Vikas and Jan for presenting your stories here today. So super happy to see this. If I take the words of Harvey, how can you help your customer go on that journey, and how can you support them toward their target? So that's kind of the message we want to bring to you and make you go home and think about that together with us and RingCentral. So very happy to have you here today. Some other things I picked up, I think very interesting to hear, well, BT's thoughts and the customer view here. So taking our customers on the cloud journey and the speed of innovation of the cloud, what our generation, or the younger generation, is saying. And then taking RingCentral's capabilities in this case with the unified communication, with the call center capabilities, and how you can increase the speed through your delivery model, and how you can kind of foster an open ecosystem and bring the powers of the ecosystem into this. So combining that with the voice quality and also then the consistent coverage of the VoLTE service to complement that. So I think we have a pretty good team here, and once again, we're excited to be here with you today. So from your perspective, Marty, if you want to kind of provide a message for our customers here, what do you think they should take with them when they go home?
I think, again, we have today millions of customers that are on the platform. We have dedicated now well over 10 years in this space. As I think Jan mentioned, and we discussed briefly, the amount of money that we're putting into R&D to make this a better product is overwhelming. This year alone, we will have spent $75 million in R&D, far outpacing our nearest competitor in that space. And the reason why that's important is because we are continually taking feedback from those millions of users that we have on the platform and driving that back into this innovation cycle to make sure that we're reflecting what our customers are telling us that they need today, what your customers are telling us that they need today to be able to collaborate, communicate, and connect better in the way that they go about their work each and every day. And that's why we take the feedback. That's why we're working with Ericsson today to provide those users with the cutting-edge experience that they're looking for. So I think the takeaway is to understand that we will continue to invest. We will continue to exceed expectations in the marketplace in terms of driving growth by matching the expectations that our customers have of us, and that the street looks towards us as a company to perform. So we need partners, and we know that we will partner with carriers. We will partner with companies like Ericsson to deliver that experience to your customers. So the takeaway is hopefully give us an opportunity to explore how we can better serve your needs and the needs of your customers is what I would take away from today. And I wanted to also thank you, Ericsson, for hosting us and for having us here.
So this is an opportunity to differentiate right now. I think for you, it's an opportunity to go home and look at this now. I mean, you can be first out looking at these things and providing these services and add a differentiating value to your customers. So go home, think about this, and act now.
Before you go home, though, join us for some cocktails outside.
Yes. So on that topic, we want to once again thank you for everyone on the webcast. Thanks for taking your time and watching this. And then what's next in the room?